Hi, I'm Sherry Ward, and for this project, I was assigned the Hispanic and Latino population. And here's my video presentation. The four key elements learned from the research is that Hispanic culture and Latino culture are big on family. Family is important, and their needs are a priority. Their extended family includes the mom, the father, brothers, sisters, grandparents, descendants, cousins, nephews, nieces, aunts, uncles, in-laws, and godparents. Family ensures security and caretaking for a lifetime, given that the relatives stay within the family dynamic and don't leave the family dynamic. Religion is also a big part of the culture. Their religion is essential. It is a principle that aids in identifying what is honest and dishonest. 55% of Hispanics classify as Roman Catholics, 22% classify as Protestants, and only 18 recognize themselves as non believers. Societal perceptions. Many Americans view Hispanics and Latinos as being poor, ignorant, lazy, criminals, and unlawful. Americans view Spanish speaking individuals who has an accent as less competent and less educated. However, the Hispanic culture has a big, strong work ethic. They work very hard. They're proud of their work and their accomplishments, no matter how big or small. They believe in family success and not just personal success when they venture out and work. The historical and current oppression. Many U.S. residents deem the population as different, underdeserving, or dangerous, and these thoughts cause harm and injustices. Um, Many Hispanic and Latinos individual experience inadequate access to health care and labor in comparison to white individuals. Studies propose that these inequalities are present because of historic and modern day economic issues, community and medical discrimination they suffer, and is also suffered by other diverse and racial ethnic groups. The first is healthcare. Many undocumented immigrants and green card holders suffer from lack of adequate access to healthcare and as far as paying for healthcare. Even though they have services through the government like the Affordable Care Act, it still disregard non-citizens and causes inequalities within the Hispanic community. Labor. Hispanic community labor, they are professionally segregated. Um, Most Latinos have lesser wages or make lesser wages than their white colleagues and are often overworked and abused. They labor in mostly unskilled jobs, and in those jobs, um, they have abnormal working conditions. Okay, here is the events that I attended. The first event that I attended was the Glenwood South Latin Night, Mexican Independence, for the Mexican Independence Day. It was on a Saturday night, September 17th, 2023. The event was very nice. The experience was awesome. At first, I was a little nervous because I didn't want to put myself in another person's culture, and I'm not familiar with that culture, and I felt kind of uneasy because I knew I was not there because I wanted to be there. I was there for a project, and I didn't feel like I would be welcomed, and I would just be sought out as like just being there to be nosy. But as soon as I got there, I was welcomed with open arms. I spent about 4 hours at the event with my husband. We were taught a lot about the Latino experience as far as dancing and especially salsa. I spent most of my time learning the salsa dance. Many of the individuals there were dressed in their culture attire. It was very fun, and I loved the cuisine. I had the deep fried empanadas filled with beef and cheese. It was pretty decent. It was nice. And we enjoyed that night. The second event was a little bit more open to the public, and so I liked that event a lot. It was like a street. It was set up like a block party on the street. It was called the La Fiesta del Pablo on Sunday, September the 18th. It was downtown Raleigh as well. It was a celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. It, like I said before, it was set up like a block party. They had information vendors, they had talent, they had dancers from all different countries, and the event stood for Pride, Existence, and Resistance. I spent about 4 hours at the event and 2 hours with the Community ID Action Program. This program helps the community register for identity documents that they couldn't get from the state or the federal government. As you can see at the top, I shared 3 pictures. Um, this young lady has on her cultural headdress and her cultural headdress and her attire. They performed also, and they had art exhibits with tribal art and um, custom wear. And the 3 things that I did learn from these events and I took away from these events is that the Hispanic community is very welcoming. They embraced everyone who participated. If you asked questions, they were very open to answering your questions. They always treated me as an equal. They treated me and my husband as equals. And I learned that they advocate for everyone's rights. So it's just not, at the events, it's just not Hispanic or Latinos hosting the events. They have all cultural backgrounds helping them fight for justice or advocate. And another thing I learned was the Hispanic history, that Mexico's Independence Day is September the 16th. I always thought that they celebrated their independence on May 5th, which is Cinco de Mayo, but they are 2 different holidays. And then also I learned about the Afro Latinos. Um, they gave us a little bit of history when I first arrived at the first event, the the Latin night. They talked about how the Africans helped. Well, the Africans invented a lot of dances in the community, and one of them is the salsa, and they are also known for the tango. Okay, the summary of the El Pablo Incorporated interview. Their vision is for an honorable civilization that has core principles such as justice, pride, and respect for all culture backgrounds. Their mission is to build communal power through management and leadership development, organization, and direct engagement so that the Hispanic slash Latin American community, as well as other marginalized communities, can have control over their own stories and destinies. They offer several services, but here are the most prominent services that they offer. The youth program fosters activism, community involvement, and actions of Latino children. They take them out into the streets, they march, they meet with community leaders, and they advocate for children's rights. PAIR. It provides information, education, and resources to Hispanic Latino survivors of domestic brutality and sexual assaults. They have connections with churches, shelters, and other organizations that they link with to help women escape and with their children. Leadership and Community Action Committee is committed to the action and progress of adult leaders, warranting success and advising decision making on campaign developments, governance, and missions. So when they have or a local person is running for anything in the community, they do their research. They make sure the leader stands for what is right and not is wrong. And so they advocate and they make decisions together on whether they will support that leader or not. And the leaders in reproductive justice, They learn about health, wellness, and reproductive rights for Hispanic and Latino women. They also do protests and marches to get um, better medical help for their community. The Community Action ID, is a form of identification targeted at Hispanics who cannot retrieve an identity document given from the state or federal government. Okay. Awareness of the available services. They are big on making sure everybody is aware of where they're located and how to get in contact with them. You can email them their website, go on social media such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. When I went to the event, they had vendors set up. Before you can talk to a vendor or go in a vendor, you had to swipe your phone with a QR code to make sure that you're signed up for one of these social media platforms. So you can receive daily newsletters, or you can know when their next event or march will take place. They also have flyers and pamphlets with their services and contact information at the North Carolina Department of Human and Health Services and at several businesses and churches that they partnership with. When talking to Miss Angie Brown, she told me that their greatest need of the organization and the population was funding. They need more funding, or they need to continue to get funding to keep the organization running, because there's several departments in the organization, and the greatest need in the community is funding as well. So they do have a donation button on their website that you can donate to help them feed, clothe, and help with medical expenses in the Hispanic and Latino community. The importance of social justice is very, very important to them. Social justice, that's their whole organization. They fight for social justice. Um, Social justice and advocacy approach from them is to encourage and practice engagement and actions effort. So they just don't talk about it or meet about it. They really go out into the streets and they march and they fight and they go to community, government, and federal meetings. They believe in social justice that addresses the origin, the reasons, and the cause of the injustices. Okay, the summary of Marta's interview. I interviewed Marta along with her husband, but her husband did not speak English very well. So basically, Marta answered all of the questions, but she did translate and to get some input from her husband, but he was pretty much shy about it. Okay, so her background, with their background, Marta and her husband, they are from Honduras. They're on a work visa. Marta is a school teacher in Warren County, North Carolina. Her husband is a lawyer. They both received their degrees in Honduras. When they arrived in America, because of her husband's language barrier and her need to go ahead and work, she said it was not an option for them to make career changes or study in a different profession. She feels that as a minority, no one thinks it's an obligation to help her and her family. As I said before, her husband does not speak English proficiently. She said there's a lot of barriers at her son's school because they stay in a small town, unlike Raleigh, where is a lot of Spanish speaking individuals who are of different ethnic backgrounds, such as the school that I work at. But there they have no one who can translate Spanish to English for her and her husband. And so she and her husband also experienced a lot of discrimination, especially within their apartment complex. One story was that her husband and her like to decorate for the different holidays and put flowers on their balconies and their porches. But as soon as they do it, it's always an issue or they get a citation, but the other neighbors do not. And one incident was in the DMV when he wanted to get his driver's license or try for his driver's license. Um, he passed the written test because it was in Spanish, but when it went to the driving test, she tried to be his translator, but they told her he couldn't. but he did practice some phrases to try to understand the instructions for driving. He has been driving for over 11 years, but when he didn't understand the directions, the instructor told him to get out of the car and not to come back until he learned English, that she would not work with anybody who couldn't speak English. Um, their holidays and religious celebrations. Marta and her family, they do celebrate Honduras Independence Day, which is September the 15th. But since they've been in America, they love the American holidays, such as Christmas and Easter. She said it is a reminder that Jesus has given them life. She loves Mother's Day, Father's Day, Children's Day, and Teachers Appreciation Week. She loves receiving gifts from her students. They have no religious practices. They do not identify as Catholic or anything. They do believe in God and Jesus and pray daily. And through this whole experience, interacting with the Hispanic/Latino culture community has led me to the fifth saying of Gracism: I will stand with you. Um, these occurrences of inequality, discrimination, and racism requires more action from me as a gracist. I feel obligated as a Christian and a counselor to advocate for those who have been silenced. I can stand with them by showing up at local governmental meetings and advocating for change. I can also celebrate the Hispanic/Latino community by encouraging their success and acknowledging their gifts and talents and congratulating them as they move forward to fight injustice. A summary of um, my events and the summary of the interviews. So the first one was compare to the interviews and the events, along with the research. So the similarities are the family is their main priority. And the other similarity in all three comparisons is discrimination. That came up a lot in the interview with Marta, the interview with Angie Brown with the organization, and also in my research. The difference that I learned, not in the research, but being physically there in the community, is that they are very embracive. Most of the research only focused on their culture and their relationships among their family and the importance of their family. One thing I did learn outside of the research as well is that the group faced colorism within their own community. I found that very, interesting. And then I did do some research on that afterwards. The most surprising thing that happened through this whole experience is that even though Marta and her husband are well educated and good people, they are treated badly because of their cultural background. I would expect that a school teacher and a lawyer would experience better treatment and not such harsh treatment just because of their background. Personal impact. It really shocked me that the Black community and the Hispanic community have a lot in common, and we're fighting for the same rights. And I have become more aware that there are diverse customs and histories within the Hispanic and Latin community. You cannot just bunch them all up into one. I must separate their culture and traditions, as like I said, and not group them into one. I need to be more open, trying to understand other cultures rather than avoiding them, because most of the time, if you don't understand something, you don't say anything, but you avoid it. I'm not afraid or terrified of asking other groups questions or being in their spaces any longer. Um, I need to show more compassion and be nurturing to others who are different than I am. Application to counseling. So, when counseling undocumented individuals, we must know their status and how it influences their daily lives. Counselors must continue to reflect on our own thoughts and misconceptions of other groups, because this could be very harmful for their well being. We must self evaluate and make sure there are no thoughts that will hinder our services provided for them. A systems approach to counseling can be vital for the Latino adults. Individual interventions must reflect on the different cultural influences that can affect the known problem. Thank you.